executive and coaches ranked Shedeur Sanders 35th out of 35 veteran quarterbacks per Mike Sandos, The Athletic. One DC said, "I sleep like a baby if I got to play him every week."
Dead last out of 35. That's the headline. But before you make up your mind about whether that's fair, here's the question I want you sitting with for the next 10 minutes. If 50 NFL executives really believe Shedeur Sanders is the worst quarterback in football, why won't a single one of them put their name on it? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Coward or correct? I'll give you my verdict at the end.
He's inaccurate at all three levels. I can't tell if he's going to get better, but there's a huge gap between him and competent QB play.
That's an actual NFL executive, quote unquote, on the record without the record part, because there's no name attached anywhere near that sentence. Just a title. Just enough weight to make headlines and just enough cowardice to never have to defend it in front of a camera.
Cam Ward is going to be placed at 25, Tyler Shough at 26, and the other
Dart
rookie...
Jackson Dart, 24.
Oh yeah, Jackson Dart is at 24.
Let that sink in for a second, because this is the part that actually stings. Shedeur isn't just behind established starters. He's behind Cam Ward. He's behind Jackson Dart. He's behind Tyler Shough. Guys who came into the league the exact same year he did, with the exact same amount of tape for evaluators to judge them on. If this ranking was about experience, they'd all be down in the basement together. They're not. Only one of them is. So here's the actual survey, stripped of the outrage, because you deserve the full picture before you pick a side. The Athletic went out and polled 50 executives and coaches, had them rank 35 veteran quarterbacks into 4 tiers heading into the season. Tier 1, your Mahomes, your Josh Allen, your Matthew Stafford, guys who don't need an explanation. Tier 2 runs deep, everybody from Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson down through names like Jordan Love and Brock Purdy. Tier 3 keeps sliding down through your Kirk Cousins types, your Tua Tagovailoas, guys who've clearly lost a step but still get the benefit of a resume. And then Tier 4, the bottom of the barrel, where you'll find Shedeur sitting alone at 35th, 4 full spots below Deshaun Watson, his own teammate, and behind every rookie in his draft class who actually got real playing time.
We're talking about a quarterback that played 8 games last year, had 7 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. What has he put on film for defensive coordinators to be like, you know what? He's really scaring me.
And look, that part's not wrong. 8 games, 10 picks. That's rookie tape. And rookie tape rarely scares anybody. Nobody's arguing Shedeur had a clean season. He threw an interception in his very first outing, missed reads on basic coverage concepts a veteran wouldn't miss. And the panel breaking this down admits as much themselves. The argument was never that the tape is spotless. The argument is what happens next, when you take one rough rookie year and use it to build a permanent verdict, then hide behind a job title so you never have to update that verdict out loud when the guy actually gets better. And here's the part that gets lost in all the outrage. Shedeur didn't exactly get a normal rookie runway either. He came in already carrying starter-level expectations with backup-level reps, thrown into a Browns quarterback room that's been a running joke for years, behind an offensive line that wasn't protecting him, throwing to a receiving core that was still figuring itself out. Compare that to guys who got a real developmental runway, a real supporting cast, a real chance to look competent before anyone was allowed to judge them. Shedeur got judged from snap 1. And it's not like he's the first rookie in league history to get buried under bad tape before turning into someone worth building a franchise around. Peyton Manning, the guy an entire generation measures quarterbacks against, actually holds the record for most interceptions thrown by a rookie in NFL history. Nobody was calling him a bust after year 1. No anonymous exec told a reporter he slept like a baby facing him. The league gave him the runway to become Peyton Manning, because that's usually how it works for quarterbacks who end up being great. The first year is rarely the whole story. It just gets treated that way the second the guy's last name is Sanders. There's also the small matter of what team Shedeur is actually playing for, because Cam Newton doesn't let this conversation stay isolated to one rookie for long. Talent-wise, the Browns have been sitting near the bottom of the league for years now. They've watched other quarterbacks walk out of that building and immediately look like completely different players somewhere else. And this is a front office that's managed to turn a stack of premium draft picks into not much of anything. When the whole organization around you is struggling to develop anybody, holding one 23-year-old personally responsible for all of it stops looking like scouting and starts looking a whole lot like a scapegoat. And it's worth pointing out who's actually doing the judging here, because executive and coach cover a huge range of actual football knowledge. Some of these guys spent decades in film rooms and locker rooms. Some of these guys have never strapped on a helmet past high school and got their entire understanding of quarterback play from other people who did play. Anonymity doesn't just protect them from criticism, it protects them from ever having to prove they know what they're talking about in the first place. You can't check credentials on a source that doesn't exist.
There will be no more Shedeur Sanders hate and bashing, bro. Because somebody has to draw the line.
That's Cam Newton. And he's not doing this because he's got some personal stake in Shedeur Sanders having a good career. He's doing it because he's watched this exact pattern before, where a young quarterback gets buried under a mountain of anonymous criticism before he's even had a real chance to answer it on the field. Cam's argument isn't even really about talent at that point. His argument is about scale. Put Shedeur's name next to any other quarterback in this league, he says, and it becomes the story. Nobody's writing 5-paragraph breakdowns about where a random Tier 3 backup landed in a survey. They're writing them about Shedeur because his name alone moves the needle, for better or worse, and that kind of attention comes with a target that most rookies never have to wear. Here's where it gets interesting though, because Cam doesn't just defend the guy blindly. He turns the whole conversation into something sharper than a simple leave him alone take.
When you have executives, and now I've always stood on this principle, let's stop giving people the opportunity to discuss these matters that are not willing to come to the forefront and say, I said it.
There's the turning point of this entire story, and it's not even about Shedeur's completion percentage anymore. It's about accountability. If you're confident enough in your evaluation to leak it to a national reporter, you should be confident enough to put your name next to it. The second you hide behind an anonymous executive said, you've told on yourself. You've admitted you don't actually want the smoke that comes with being wrong. And Cam takes it a step further, pointing out it even matters which team that anonymous voice is coming from. An executive from a franchise that can't get out of its own way has a lot less standing to grade anybody else's quarterback room, but anonymity erases that context completely. You don't get to weigh the source when the source refuses to exist. And think about what that does to the rest of the league watching this play out. Every young quarterback taking real reps this season now knows the rules of engagement. You can be graded publicly, permanently, by people who never have to answer for the grade. Play well, and nobody remembers who doubted you. Play poorly, and that same anonymous exec gets to say, I told you so, without ever having been wrong out loud in the first place. That's not scouting. That's a free shot with zero risk attached. And it's happening to a 23-year-old before he's even played a full professional season.
Shedeur worse than J.J. McCarthy and Penix. I don't believe that. I'm sorry, Chad. Look, and this is and these execs, you guys have evaluated talent a lot longer than I have, but I'll take Shedeur over them two all day long.
That's Chad Ochocinco, a guy who spent a whole career getting evaluated by people just like this, flatly disagreeing with 50 of them at once. And he's not alone in that read. Multiple panels covering the story on multiple different channels landed in almost the exact same spot without coordinating. The tape justifies some of the criticism, sure, but the anonymity behind it doesn't sit right with anybody who's actually played the game at a high level. There's a reason guys who've been in that locker room keep circling back to the same complaint. They know what it's like to be graded by people who've never had to make a real-time decision with a pass rusher in their face.
That pisses me off. Because now you're just out here talking shit about everyone, left, right, and center. No one getting damn well. No one's ever gonna. You're not putting a stamp on that. You're not putting a name on that.
You're not putting a name on that. Say that part again, slower, because that's the whole story in one sentence. 50 voices, 0 names, and one quarterback who has to carry every single word of it into training camp with his actual name stitched across his back every single day. So think about what this ranking actually costs Shedeur versus what it costs the people who wrote it. He has to answer for it in interviews, in group chats, in every headline with his name in the title for the rest of the season. He has to walk into a building full of teammates who read the same article. He has to go out and either prove it wrong on tape or watch it get repeated every single time he has a bad series. Meanwhile, the 50 people who actually said it get to disappear right back into sources say, and never get quoted, named, or held to it again. One side of this conversation has skin in the game. The other side is just talking from a safe distance with their name legally scrubbed off the record. And this isn't some isolated one-time thing either. This is basically the operating model now. A reporter gets 49 other opinions about 49 other quarterbacks and barely a sentence out of any of it. Then they ask specifically about Shedeur Sanders because they already know that's the name that gets the clicks, the quote that gets the headline, the paragraph that gets pulled out and turned into a standalone story. Every single person involved in that chain benefits from his name being attached to controversy. The reporter gets the traffic. The anonymous source gets to vent with 0 consequences. The only person who doesn't benefit from any of it is the 23-year-old whose actual career is the thing being used as content.
And you put Lamar Jackson, Shedeur Sanders, Joe Burrow, Shedeur Sanders, Josh Allen, Shedeur Sanders. There's not a more polarizing player in the NFL, and let's call it how we see it. Stop all the shenanigans. We're not talking about talent here. We're talking about whose name can move the needle.
And that's really the twist buried underneath a ranking that's supposed to be about talent. Put Shedeur's name next to literally any quarterback in this league, and it becomes the headline. That ranking wasn't really about where he sits on a depth chart. It was about how much attention his name alone can generate. And 50 anonymous execs just proved that point better than Cam Newton ever could, because they cared enough about Shedeur Sanders specifically to talk about him, and not brave enough to let their own name sit anywhere near his. So here's my answer to the question I asked you 10 minutes ago. Coward or correct? Honestly, both. The tape says they might be onto something. The cowardice says none of it means anything until somebody's willing to say it with their chest and their name attached. Cam Newton said it best. Somebody has to draw the line. And until 50 anonymous voices are willing to become 50 accountable ones, that line doesn't move. It's not a scouting report. It's just gossip with a job title stapled to it. All right, that's the story. If you made it this far, you already know what to do. So smash that like button like it personally ranked you 35th out of 35. Drop a comment telling me if you think this ranking is legit or just cowardly noise. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and share this with the one friend in your group chat who still thinks Shedeur's washed. Let's ruin his day together. See you in the next one.